childhood trauma part, whatever the fuck part we're on. So the I'm burning down the damn village because this village has been the source of so much trauma and so much problems. So yes, I am burning down the damn village because we had this whole principle of keeping everything in the family, keeping it quiet, keeping everything within the space, but nobody talked about it within the space, and it drove me absolutely fucking nuts. And nobody cared. Nobody like seemed to give a real damn about me outside of what I could do for them. And yeah, I can't fucking take it anymore. And I've never been able to talk. Almost everything that I've actually shared has been shit that I never shared with anybody. Ever. So, moving on to what I call the hard knock life principle. Now, I made that up, so I don't know if that's like a real thing out there. So, for me, it means basically, if I had a harder life than you, then you should suck it up and get over it. And it doesn't matter what your fucking perception is. And that's how I was treated by my mother. And it was always just like, I would like tell her, like when I told her, I mentioned in a previous video when I told her that everything was just too much for me. It was too much. I couldn't put it into fucking words because I was never allowed to talk. Like, children should be seen and not fucking heard is what I grew up with. And I embodied that to the point where I could not actually communicate, not with her or any other adult figure. And that really fucked me up. I didn't know how to set boundaries, I didn't know how to explain shit. And I didn't have even if I had the vocabulary, I didn't have the ability because I had to walk specifically around her in a way to where she could understand it without taking it the wrong way. Because if she felt anything was fucking criticism, she would completely and utterly dismiss it and humiliate me. Or punish me. And so with this principle, basically, I had it worse than you, so it's whatever. Like, when I tried to get her to teach me to drive for many, many years, by the way, I'll get on to the details of that in the codependency, but I tried to get her to teach me to drive for years. And then she was just like, well, nobody taught me how to drive. I took classes. And I was like, yeah, back when you took classes, they were less expensive. And on top of that, the money that I am making, cannot afford me to do this. Mind you, I drove with boyfriends and exes and random friends more than I ever drove with her. And I was a full-fledged adult before I even got in the car with her, and she freaked out the whole time I was driving. Now, mind you, I was new at it, but like, still. She freaked out like they do on the TV shows with the parents. Anyways, so yeah, that was an issue. But going from that to like the jealousy thing that I didn't even have words for the jealousy thing that I noticed pulling up in her over the years. There was the first instance that I can recall about my mother's like jealousy of other people was when I actually started to hide all of my hobbies, the things that I loved, the music, all of it. I think I even stopped singing it out loud. But my first experience with that was when my aunt had like this Christian CD and she was playing it, and he had his son on the was it a did I say Christmas or Christian? It was Christian CD. And the artist had his son on there and he was rapping. He's like, shake it, don't break it, took your mama 9 months to make it. And all of us just kept replaying that part and dancing to it and thought it was like so funny. And like, I don't know. From what I observed, it looked like my mom took it as us, like, basically worshiping her for bringing the music, but we were really just dancing to the music and we liked that part and we thought it was funny. It's not like we were saying, oh my gosh, thank you, Auntie, for introducing to us to this most precious gem. But she took it like, she was just like, I don't even think I like that you guys keep saying that over and over again. And on top of that, I was into him before anybody else. And when I heard her like act like that, I was just like, this is surprising. I didn't like I couldn't recall ever seeing my mother act like this. And I was just like, this is okay, I'm just gonna shut up. And I stopped participating in that shit too. Um then I started to like gradually notice things like that. And specifically of jealousy, I cannot 100% recall anything else that didn't involve me. But having her attention was not a good thing in the family. I'll be honest. Because around that same time, one of my aunts had a like best friend that she was always going on trips with. She was always going around. She was living her best life. She was a businesswoman. She ain't have no kids. She had nothing tying her down. Um, Besides maybe her siblings sometimes because she was the rich auntie and so she like helped everybody else out financially quite often, and we lived with her a few times. And so going on from there, she was going out with her friend or whatever, and then like there began to be whispers with the adults, and I overheard my mom insinuating that she may be lesbian. And that just made me like, so what if she is? Like, why does that matter? Because by then I had already had like a secret gay friend from like my middle school times. Because I was just like, they're not any different than us. And so I was just, I just shut up as usual because I'm not allowed to say anything. I'm not allowed to have an opinion. I'm not a person. I'm a slave. And so I was just like, okay, I'm gonna move away from that. Then with that same aunt, much later on in my adult years, that aunt was actually doing better for her health and decided to like mostly go vegan. And I was just like, oh, that's so cool that she's vegan. And it seems like there's a lot of good vegan food. And I was like considering, like, I had every now and then, I used to actually drop meat out of my diet every so often just to do like a cleanse. And I was like, you know what? I would consider going vegan if the food always tasted like this. And she's like, oh, she's not really vegan. She just says that to make herself feel better. And I was just like, what the fuck? Why would you say that? And like in my head, I'm still being put in the role of a child. So I'm like, why would you say that to a kid? And I'm like, oh wait, I'm an adult. And I just shut up because, I was still kind of dependent on her at that point. That was the last year, by the way. Like early last year. And yeah, I'll explain that later. But then, there was an instance with my first sister that I can't fully recall. And then there was me. I was actually getting some help trying to get um, a new place or whatever, and just getting some assistance. And the channels that I was going through, she was the mediator because nobody else was answering me directly when I tried to communicate with them directly. They were going through her. And she was just like, oh, well, why are you like always talking to me? Why don't you talk to her directly? And I'm like, she's not answering me because it was one of my aunts that was helping me. And I was like, she's not answering me. That's why I'm going through you. And she's like, well, I'm not getting anything out of this. And blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I'll just do this in the next part.